20 years of marriage.
I think we both had very different reasons for going to the retreat. Starting out with, I'm talking first apparently. Okay.
Go ahead.
He just jumped in, didn't he?
I don't like events. I don't like retreats. I don't really like traveling all that much. But we had been feuding a lot. Just little arguments that are really nothing, but turn into giant things when you compound them over 20 years. And Mary had we talked about talking to a marriage counselor or doing something or speaking with a priest or whatnot, and we tried those things too. But then it was the next day we were fighting again about something or other. And so Mary came up with this idea. She's like, "Well, let's go on a retreat together." And I was like, "Sure, I'll try anything at this point." It's like so it was it was under duress. Yeah. I was not looking forward to it in the slightest. It's like the whole 5-6 hour drive out there is just all right. Looky, we're driving out here through the wonderful Colorado roads to get to this retreat where I'm just going to hate every minute of it. So Mary might have a totally different reason for going. I don't know, but
okay. I want to hear a reason, but I want to come back. I want to hear more about yours. This is good.
Well, okay, so Gordy had been, I guess, he put that really bluntly. I didn't feel like it was quite as bleak as he puts it, but
it wasn't that bad, man.
I was surprised he agreed to go, but he's been trying to connect more on different things. So, for example, one week he took off early and we went bowling as a lunch date, and that was really fun.
Oh yeah, you crushed me like 4 games in a row bowling. No wonder you're
again.
It's not my fault. I'm better at sports. But anyway, then he humored me and went on a couples massage with me, which was so out of his element, though. Like he was, you could tell he was just like, I am here for my wife. I don't know.
I'll take you. I'll go.
And then he texts me and he's like, "Hey, you want to get tattoos?" I was like, "Okay, we are going crazy." But
finish that.
All right, well, we did not get tattoos.
No tattoos. Just checking.
He doesn't even like needles. He won't even give blood. Like the man can't handle a needle. Like he would tattoo.
I try. Okay.
He does try. He gets
I can't.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say that. Shame you publicly. I'm a terrible wife. Okay.
It's the worst.
Anyway, so I don't know. I just felt a little nudge. It was like, hey, maybe you could go on a retreat. And so I thought about like the Engage Encounter was the last retreat we went on, and I was like, okay, maybe they have a marriage encounter. I'll look those up. So I started looking them up, and they were in like closest one was Kansas City. I was hoping it would be Wichita, but no, I could only find one in Kansas City, and I'm like, we're gonna drive 4 hours. And then I was like, wait, we didn't like our marriage or our engaged encounter very much. Like the talks were canned, and it just wasn't well done. It was in Pittsburgh where I was going to school, but so I was like, no, I'm gonna try a different direction. So I started looking for retreats in Colorado because I was like, maybe we could do like a vacation-y type, kind of a reason. So that's actually how I sold it to him. I was like, hey, the retreat's only in the evening, Thursday and Friday. So we have all day to go and like explore, do some shopping, goof off. And so, I don't know. He ended up working actually on Friday, but anyway, I know sister. Yeah, that really is.
Computer at home, man.
Well, no, actually, that is kind of an interesting story. Go ahead.
It was my first week of work at my new job. It's like, so we had planned this thing several months in advance, and then I changed jobs, and it's like, oh wait, I don't have any PTO to use. So fortunately, I'm a coder, so it's like I'm running off of my cellular internet, and I'm like writing my laptop on the drive-in. So Mary drove the whole way like a champ, but.
Hold that thought just 1 second. I forgot to do our trivia question. And this is a pretty good conversation, so we may not get back to it. So anyway, by the way, we did have a winner. Marcus Johnson from Colby is a trivia winner for our 4 o'clock hour on our second question. I reread that. I don't even know what the question was anymore, but congratulations to Marcus Johnson. He'll be entered in the final drawing later today. Our 5 p.m. trivia, this is for children only, so you guys aren't eligible, 16 and under. Where was the wedding which Jesus attended and performed his first public miracle? Was that A, Cana, B, Bethlehem, C, Jerusalem? Again, where was the wedding which Jesus attended and performed his first public miracle? A, Cana, B, Bethlehem, C, Jerusalem. So, if you have your answer, you can call us at 785-621-4110 to answer the trivia question and also to make your pledge and or donation. 785-621-4110. Okay, we're back with Gordon And I just forgot your name. I'm sorry, man.
Mary.
Mary, I'm sorry.
I forget sometimes too. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, you can. I can. I covered my notes up. But anyway, I wanted to real briefly though, when you were talking about going, when now I was a Protestant. I married a Catholic, so I joined the church about 30 years ago. We've been married 42. So, anyway, my wife said we have to go to engaged encounter, and I'm saying why? And of course, it was only in Victoria, so it wasn't that big a deal. It wasn't a big trip. It wasn't Denver. But I'm fighting this thing all the way over. What in the world are we going to do? All Friday night and all day Saturday night, and go to Mass on Sunday and come home. What in the world? It was one of the most unique experiences I've ever had. I loved it. I really, truly enjoyed it. And our speeches weren't canned. The couple that did it,
good.
The couple that did it had been married like 50 years or something, and they were good friends of ours.
Oh, that's awesome.
Bachkoras. And in fact, they just passed away recently. I played baseball with their boys and stuff growing up, and so it was a very rewarding experience. And they talked about marriage encounter. And that's why one of my first questions when you said, "Well, we went to this unveiled retreat," I'm going, "What's wrong with marriage encounter?" But you answered that question for me already.
I couldn't find them around here, so I don't know. But part of the drive-in too, it was kind of cool to stumble on this because I listened to Sister Miriam James on their Abiding Together podcast, and she's a big fan of Dr. Bob Schutz, and sometimes I've listened to his podcast, Restore the Glory. So he's talked about marriage before too. He's a Catholic psychologist that's not practicing anymore. So it was cool to like
psychology anymore.
Yeah, he's still practicing Catholic. Thank you for clarifying. But it was like when I saw this retreat, I was like, oh, it's put on by the John Paul II Healing Center. It's going to be this amazing speaker, but not necessarily him, because Kenny put on all the retreats. I thought there were like a lot of them they put on, right? I didn't realize he did one either. So it was just fortuitous that he did two, and that it happened to fall in this window where I was looking for a retreat in the next couple months. Like, it was so cool. And we get there, and we're sitting there in the pews, and I look over, and I'm like, Dr. Bob is here.
It was like a teenage girl sitting there, and Taylor Smith walked into the room. It was like, oh my goodness, what is happening?
It was so like, oh my gosh, can I have him sign something? I left my book at home. I have like all of his books. Like, I have a lot of them.
So your tattoo is now his autograph.
Yeah, I got his face on my shoulder. So,
No, it was great. It was great. He has a book called Be Devoted, which he wrote about marriage, and it is really good. He is okay. I shouldn't steal this for you. Let's keep going. I'm sorry.
No.
You go on to what makes this retreat so good. You want to comment how is that we're looking at?
Well, I don't know that. Just a minute. I don't think we got Gordon's thoughts going into retreat. I mean,
yeah, you could reiterate those a little better, I suppose.
Other than they didn't want to go. But
yeah.
Okay, what you got there? I mean, obviously, there's always that. Why are we doing this? And nobody likes to get out of the comfort zone. I mean, I'm very, very guilty of that. My wife will tell you this. If it was up to me, we would still live in our little bitty house that we bought when we first married. We'd have shag carpeting and gold flock wallpaper. I don't care.
Sounds great.
Yeah. I mean, what difference does it make? The roof didn't leak, But anyway.
So my expectations going in were like, I'll try anything at this point, trying to help, work things out. And as I expected, a whole bunch of people, everyone packed in close, doing, lots of praise and prayers and speakers talking about, I don't even know what. And the packed part was correct. It was this massive parish that was almost standing room only. It was truly a ridiculous number of people in there. And then Bob Schutz gets up there and he starts talking. I can't even remember. I've got a notebook on it. I actually took notes. Okay, I didn't even take notes in school. So actually, but he had a lot of points for. It was very well broken up into. All right, it's write out. What you thought about this, and then he gave some examples from his life, and then talked about how the other side can perhaps like my wife or your spouse, would see the situation, and really kind of broke it down in a very I hate to use this word for you, honey. Sorry. Logical format where it's like, okay, this didn't make sense. I've got to see how the people work and interact together. And ironically enough, much was part of the problem for it is when speaking with Mary, it's not about. I always try to these are the reasons why, is this equals this is that, and so that's why this needs to be this. and I break down the pieces for it. And it's almost an attack in a way. It's one of the things he really broke it up with.
Yeah,
She's interrupting. I'm scared now.
we joke about like now it's like you're beating me with the logic bat. Please stop. Like,
A plus, 1 plus 1 is still 2.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, how can you not get this? And I'm just like, but my heart was different.
It's like I build the argument out in my head, whatever, for why I'm correct in this particular instance. And I go through, and it's on the opposite side of it, he did a good job. His daughter spoke as well, and she was also a really good speaker, going over stuff, and about how she was not understanding why I didn't get her feelings in the whole thing or whatever. And I'm just like, what are these feelings stuff you talk about? This makes sense. This logic here.
He's German. He doesn't have feelings.
I've got one or
He's
two.
also male, German.
He's got it stacked against him.
No, it's just welcome,
But it's hard. I should have brought my notebook in about it.
I know. I was just thinking, I was like, we didn't bring our notebooks. That was silly.
But the whole retreat was very, very well structured and broken down into this is what we're going to be doing tomorrow. This stuff we're going over. And there was time for us to go together, time to stand up and go away. It was just very well spelled out. They addressed each of the points in the notebook, and it wasn't like reading off the PowerPoint. It was
it was very practical. So, for example, one of the things I don't remember after which part of the talk they talked about, but it was like one of the exercises was look in your spouse's eyes for 5 minutes. Which I mean, I know you look in someone's eyes, but it was. I'm embarrassed to say it was harder than I expected. Like to just keep looking. Yeah, well,
you tried it. Horrible.
I might have, but anyway, I have emotions. Yeah. I remember the night before we left, though, Gordy was kind of giving me a little hard time. I don't like travel. I don't like this. I don't like whatever. And my thought was, I made a mistake. Like, I really thought, I was like, oh, man. And there was no, like, okay, we're going to cancel it because you can't cancel a hotel room anymore. You can't you're going to lose all that money. And you can't cancel the retreat at this point. Like, we lose all that money. I was like, well, we're in it. But I really was like, he had persuaded me with his negativity. Sorry, honey. But it was like, oh, man. This is gonna really hurt, isn't it? But then we got there, and we just.
My first thought was, you said there's 800 people.
Yeah.
It's like, how do you get anything out of a conference with 800 people? I mean, that's just so. Yeah.
Well, and it's not. We did a really good job. Like everyone in the group, it was almost like we were all on our own individual things because then you break up and everyone was just focused on their spouse. Like there wasn't anyone like annoying or talking to other people. I mean, other than excuse me, I need to get through or whatever. But it was very like. Everyone was there for their spouse. And so I made a set up front, of course, because I like to do that. So we could see pretty well. I always wanted to be able to see Dr. Bob Schutz. Hello. But anyway, because that helps with the whole conference feel. But they're used to this. This retreat was live streamed also. And so they had like fancy cameras and lights and, like you could really, it wasn't a thing. I mean, it wasn't really an issue until you came to breaks. And then they had brought in portalises, which are like portaloos, but fancier. They're actually really great. So like a big semi truck of bathrooms. So on a break, you would just go outside and go to the truck, so we never really got food. Maybe one time we got food, we got lunch, but it was really hard. The food line was hard because, and they even said that we don't have food for everyone. If you really need something, there's stuff, but not everyone's going to make it through before we have to start again. So we were just prepared for that. But they did like a box lunch once. But honestly, I didn't think the crowd was that bad. Other than getting to the bathroom, that was my biggest thing. But we were there to be together. We weren't there, we heard the talk. We did the exercises. It really was just time for us. So it didn't bother me. But then none of this really bothers me. As much as he hates it, I love travel. I love going places. I love adventures and people. So I was like, this is wonderful.
Well, one of the things, you've got 9 children. It's tough to get away. We had 2 children, and of course, we've done everything with our children. We now do everything with our children and grandchildren. It just the crowd has just gotten bigger, but that's my wife's happy place. For my wife, we go somewhere, and we've done a few things alone together, and it's okay for a day or two. And she's like, "Where are the kids?" And she would never go to an adult-only resort of some sort. She says, "Why? Why would you go to that where there's no children? You got to go where there's children. That's where happiness is at." And so, obviously when, you need to take time, and this is something that we've never done a lot of. My sister and her husband have always done a date night. I mean, every Friday night for all the years they were married, it's date night, Kids can do whatever they want. We're going on date night. And some people need that personal time with each other, just to stare in each other's eyes for 5 minutes and, say whatever you got to say, get it off your chest. And so, God bless you for doing that. Now, I think Gordon already kind of told us what he thought was so great about the retreat, but, give us your, other than you got to see your hero, what did you actually learn, about yourselves, about how people can make their marriages work better? I mean, obviously, if there were 800 people there, there's obviously some problems out there with marriage. Society. I made a comment I was in Salina visiting with some folks back there, and I made a comment about marriage or whatever, and the gentleman said the problem with marriage today in society poo-poos it. It's not the cool thing to be. We're in minorities. Happily married people are a minority, and I am, as I'm very proud. I mean, I married my high school sweetheart. We've been together since 1975. Been married since 1981. I'm sorry, she ain't getting rid of me. You can try. I'm coming back. So it's one of those things. So, what did you learn about that process? And obviously, there's a problem that we need to address.
Well, I guess to take it kind of on a personal level, this is what I think for me. And it's the point I keep coming back to. But up to this point, I thought I was supposed to keep my junk away from Gordy. So I can be strong and I can just handle it, right? Things upset me, but I don't need to tell him because that's just weak. And girls don't do that. Don't be one of those girls. Don't whine and complain. Just take it, right? And so I couldn't tell him I was tired. I was tough. I could do this alone. And if he hurt me, I would not tell him because that's rude. Oh man, what an incorrect way to think though. Being honest with my spouse was so freeing. It allows me to take part in pain and struggle for us to walk together, to be honest, to show my faults. Sorry, I'm reading this off the paper because otherwise I won't get it out right. I get myself into trouble by doing things I should not do or not being able to do the things I should do. Self-control is lacking or my temper or whatever, and I have to tell Gordy. So it's like I had this image one time when I was praying. I was in a car like with Jesus. We're riding in this pickup, and I look over at him, and I have this like spot on my shirt right here. Like I had a wound, like a deep wound, and it's like gushing blood. Like somebody stabbed me, and I'm gushing blood here on my shirt. And Jesus kind of looks over, and he's like, "You want me to take a look at that?" And I'm like, I'm fine. Because it was like I got into this mess myself, and so I can't ask for your help. I went where I wasn't supposed to go, and I fell down, and I hurt myself, and I knew I wasn't supposed to do it, so I can't ask you to help me. And that same sense in our marriage, it's like I can't ask Gordy for help, and I can't let him know I'm not perfect because I didn't do it right. I'm the one who made the mistake, and it's like I had this perfectionist mentality that it's like he doesn't want to see my mistakes, and he can't love me if I have these problems and these mistakes, and it was just totally debunked, and that might be why I cried some. So there you go.
And a lot of that is really I kind of say in jest, but slightly seriously, is I learned a lot of things that I was in trouble for that I didn't know I was in trouble for there. And yeah, it's kind of funny. It's like, oh, I didn't realize that I was, you felt this way about a lot of those things. Part of the stuff that I gained from the retreat was understanding that I wasn't hearing those things from her. She wasn't sharing those burdens with me because she didn't feel comfortable to be vulnerable and open with me because I did not recognize and what
he would beat me with the logic bat.
It's like, oh, why are you feeling this way? You should feel this. So, but yeah, it's being open to her feelings on it. Father Fred is listening. I'm sorry, the feelings word on the radio. But yeah, it's like, so in a way, that was part of the fascination of it too. Is it's all tied up. It's like her difficulty herself was in part inspired by my not recognizing her needs for communication and understanding her feelings, and giving her a safe place to share those things with. And so then when she was cut off from me, and then when she would be upset with me for something, then I would in turn be upset for like, why are you mad about this? What is going on? It's like you haven't told me any of these things. So it's this big circular kind of spiral of conflict. Mm-hmm. So that builds up over time. I mean, the smallest of things. So
yeah, honestly, it's funny when I pray, sometimes I get pictures. Like God's good to me like that. I guess I like pictures. But one time after we'd had this argument, and I realized that I was kind of keeping things from him in a sense, not intentionally, just like I said, I wanted to be tough. I don't I don't feel that. I'm not hurt. But I had this image of like a heart. Our marriage was like a heart. And there was like a part of it that was deformed and hadn't been allowed to grow because I hadn't shared my heart with him. I hadn't told him all these things and allowed us to grow together. So it was like kind of damaged and kind of, malformed in a sense. But the good news is that God can resurrect and heal. So,
well, prior to this understanding, I don't think I would have been in a place to receive that. And so you understandably would have had a reason to be apprehensive about sharing that with me. So
at this retreat, was there a lot of time spent on communication? I mean, obviously what you're talking about is communication, correct?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't specifically communication. I mean, we should have brought the books.
Well, I mean, okay,
but it was a lot.
Obviously, you can say something to Gordon, and he can listen to it and accept it, or he can try to read between the lines, and he can try to hope, or you can kind of hope, well, he knows what I'm talking about, but he really doesn't know what I'm talking about. And I mean, communication is communication. And the easiest thing about communication is when you say, honey, I don't really get what you're talking about, and rephrase that thing or something, or I'm sorry I hurt you, but I didn't mean to. I mean, I don't think any spouse, I hope not anyway. And I tell my wife, I don't do things just to make you mad. Tell me what I'm doing so I don't do it again. I mean, I don't like you to be mad at me. And my wife very seldom gets mad at anybody about anything. I'm blessed with a saint for a wife. I really am. But still, she gets mad at me from time to time, and just tell me, I'm like a school kid. I don't want to piss the teacher off multiple times.
Yeah,
it's just no fun. Yeah, it just really isn't.
But this is almost like a step back from not just like you don't understand, but being at a place to be open and receive. So I've noticed this lately with Gordy and I. We have strong feelings about different things. Like, for example, I really like to send a Christmas letter every year, and I spend a lot of time on this Christmas letter, and it's kind of I spend way too much time on my Christmas letter, and I send it to like everyone. Like I think like 150 people is my list right now. So like, but it's important to me, and I don't know quite why, but it is. Like I've always done it since forever. Like my dad did it, and we did it, and it's just important. And Gordy was kind of like, why do you spend all this time on this thing? Like this is so silly. Like what are you doing? And just to come at that from a different place where he's like, look at all this time you're wasting that you could be doing these other more important things, or spending time with me, where I'm like, look at this time I'm able to do this thing that I love and tell these people that I love them. Like to me, it's this ministry almost. Like I'm letting everyone know how our life is going. I'm telling you how good God is, how great the year's been for us. Like I'm looking at all the positives. I'm sharing our children. Like it's such a joy to send this letter and to connect. I love sending letters and connecting. So it's just so important to me. And we just have such a different view on it because Gordy's like, I'm dumb.
I'm just like, babe, it's 10:30 at night. I gotta sleep. Okay, can we not do this now? So,
hold that thought. Back to the trivia. We don't have a winner yet.
My children,
16 and under. Pick up your phone. Ask your parents to borrow their smartphone. Where was the wedding which Jesus attended and performed his first public miracle? Was it in A, Cana, B, Bethlehem, C, Jerusalem? Where was the wedding which Jesus attended and performed his first public miracle? A, Cana, B, Bethlehem, C, Jerusalem. You can dial in at, where my phone number is at, I should have it memorized by now, 785-621-4110. That's to answer the trivia question and to also make your pledges. All right, we are back speaking with the Gordon and Mary Schroeder. They're talking about a retreat they went to renew their marriage. So, in this process, what are some practical takeaways? What did you learn? What can you help us with?
Probably the biggest practical, quantifiable change was going over misunderstandings. So if Mary would say something or I would say something, the other one would want to argue about me. Immediately like this gets my hackles up. Is first off you stop and instead of responding, it's like, okay, I believe you were saying this, and then I reiterate what I heard, in my words, and it's like, is this what you were saying? To understand, establish, kind of like translating it beforehand. It's like this is what I received. Is that the actual message that you were meaning to send? And if not, please correct me. It was starting a lot of that. But basically, so which was like the night after the retreat. I believe we exercised that pretty much immediately. So
they had us stop and do a discussion right away, right? And they said, don't pick like your hardest, conflict. Pick something a little lower. And I felt like we did it really honestly. And it was more like listening and rephrasing, but not solving, because that's something that I've noticed men especially seem to want to solve things. And sometimes I'll even tell him, I'd like to share my problems with you, and I don't need answers right now. Could you just accept the problems, and then later maybe I'll be ready to ask your ideas.
It's so hard.
We're fixers. Yeah, we're fixers.
But I know,
Yeah.
and women want to be received before we can be solved. So.
How long did you guys date before you were married?
Year and a half.
Okay.
Something like that. Yeah.
That's something that I don't know that we were taught this. We dated for like 6 years before we were married, but that's just because we had to pay for our own wedding and save up a bunch of money and all those things. But we told our children, 4 seasons, spend 4 seasons with this person. Go to Christmas, bring them to our Christmas, go to their Christmas, come to our Thanksgiving, go to the Thanksgiving, go on a vacation with them. We're going to take your boy or girl on a vacation with us. They need to spend time, and you spend it. So it's something that you spend some time communicating during that year and a half or so. You've obviously gotten along pretty darn well because you got 9 kids. So there's been a few happy evenings in the house.
They were all mail order. UPS.
I've looked at them.
They're
I've
cut
seen
out of
them.
a mold.
Yeah.
They are.
They look a lot like your wife.
I'm pretty sure I know where they came from,
But anyway.
No, that is kind of a peeve of mine, is that when we were dating, even most of the courtship, I went back to school in Ohio, and he was here. So we met in the summer at the campus center, and then I went back to school, and then we came back. Were we dating by the end of that summer? I think we were. We met to pray, to do There's the Hours at the campus center, and we would meet in the morning and meet at night, hang out because nobody else was in town, and then I went back to school. We were dating, I think, by the time I went back to school. But then I came back the next summer, and you proposed that summer, right? And then I went back to school, and then you went back to school to do marriage prep with me a little bit, and then came back.
Moved to Ohio for 6 months.
So it was pretty quick.
Do marriage prep. That was interesting. Ohio is a very different place.
Steubenville, especially, is a very unique city to have a college in. Yeah, it's just a little different.
That's right. Hold that thought. For a trivia question, Hannah Plank from Wichita, Kansas. How did go, girl? We get someone listening in Wichita. But anyway, welcome to the show. Hannah Plank, it's internet drawing. And since we have that, I'm going to go ahead and ask the next question. And I think this is wide open. Doesn't say 16 and under, but we'll see. What part of Adam did God take while he was sleeping to create Eve? Did he take his hair, which is answer A. Answer B is rib. And answer C is brain. What part of Adam did God take while he was sleeping to create Eve? A, hair, B, rib, C, brain. So again, give us a call at 785-621-4110. So more thoughts on a retreat to renew our marriage?
One of the other big inspirations I had there was a lot of times it's and that, again, it's one of the things I wrote down as well. Any of my high school teachers will tell you notes don't usually happen with me. And it was a lot of times I look at something my spouse is doing, and I'm like, why don't you? Or why are you doing this? Why is she doing that? What's going on? And really, the answer, and this is terribly touchy-feely, but it's more of like, how can I reach you about this? How can I solve this for you? How can I communicate with you why I feel this way about it instead? So it was a big thing for me of like, not what is wrong with you, but how can I reach you, or how can I help to solve this problem too? So I know it was a big thing that stuck out for me, and it sticks in my head that instead of finding criticism and wondering, well, why don't you fix this? Why don't you be better at this? Why do you feel that way? It's like, how can I reach you in these things instead? So I don't know if it means anything to anybody else, but there's what you get.
But it is just what you just said is how can I versus why don't you understand? So it's just a process. Again, it's a process of communication, but it's got to be the right way to communicate.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Sorry, my brain just went.
No way.
I know, right? I had something I really wanted to say and it wasn't written down, but I'll just mention something that Dr. Bob Hughes talks about that I really like. He talks about the marriage house as being 5 layers. And so like you build your house, you start with spiritual intimacy and then emotional intimacy, companionship, teamwork, and then sexual intimacy is like the top, the penthouse. And it seems like a lot of marriages sometimes want to go from the top down when it's better to build from the bottom up. And that's something that he kind of noticed or was open to receiving that at the retreat. Because I probably would have said that, but I wouldn't have said it so well. Like Dr. Bob says it really well. I would have been like, you need to respect my feelings and spend time with me doing something that's not sex. Because that really narrows it down what I need, but it's hard because sometimes I don't even know what I need. And Gordy even made this joke, like, he's like, I was giving you everything I thought I could think of to give you, rather than like, this is communication, like you said, rather than asking me what I need and believing when I say this is what I need, if I know, which sometimes I'm a girl and I don't even know what I need, oftentimes, let's be honest. But he's like, I was giving you all these things that you should need, like a plant. You needed water and you needed, but he was like, you're like that needs vodka. Not that I drink, but just like, I needed something different than what you would think to give a plant. So what he thought I needed was not what I needed. But oftentimes, like, to be honest, like I said, it's just, I don't know what I need, but I need him to help me come to understand it. And so that's one of those things, like when I've been going, sometimes now that I'm trying to be more open to him, it's like he left, his hammer out and I tripped on it and cut my foot. And he comes to me and so I say, look, I have a cut on my foot. And I tripped on your hammer. And he's like, well, to be defensive is our first instinct. Well, you shouldn't have been walking over there where my hammer is. What are you thinking? And I'm like, well, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to walk on your hammer, but my foot is still hurt and you need to help me deal with this, And so it's like he needs to realize and acknowledge that I'm hurt and then help me with it. It's not necessarily his fault. I mean, maybe he could have moved the hammer, but maybe I shouldn't have been walking there. It's this whole understanding and accepting and yet still dealing with, the feelings and whatever. It's not like I'm wrong for having these feelings or I'm wrong for doing this way. It's like he said, what can I do to help you so we can keep moving forward together?
I legitimately thought I let the hammer out or something. I was like, really? I don't remember her saying anything about this. Oh man, I am not getting better at this listening thing. There wasn't actually a hammer, was there?
No.
Okay, good.
not that I know of. But one time he broke something and I stepped on it and cut my foot. I do remember this. It was a glass salt shaker. You broke it. Anyway.
Again, hold that thought. We do have a winner. Grant Weber is the winner of our trivia question about Adam. What part of Adam did God take while he was sleeping? And that was his rib. So congratulations to Grant Weber. He will be entered in our drawing. Later this evening, we'll be drawing for a $50 gift card to the Messenger, traditional Catholic book and gift store owned by Jerome and Angela Schmeidler. So again, we're visiting with Gordon and Mary Schroeder. They spent, when did you go on this retreat?
October.
Mm-hmm. So a couple months ago, they headed out to north of Denver, Colorado, to Littleton, and went to a retreat called Unveiled. And so with 800 other people there, what are your final thoughts about marriage? After you've been to this retreat, what did you learn? How are you moving forward? And the other thing, and I've done training seminars I was in the insurance business for 35 years, and I've done a lot of seminars and trained a lot of agents, hundreds of agents all over the nation. And one thing that I always saw was right after my seminars, right after a training that went on for 2 or 3 days, the production would spike. For maybe 2 or 3 weeks, it would plateau, and then it would go back to where it was. And so what we realized was that our training couldn't be a weekend; it had to be ongoing. It had to be something that we talked about maybe for a week. We hammered it home for 2 or 3 days. We all met and said, "Hi, how you doing? Ron, whatever." And then once they went back into the field, I had to create a training system that fed them constantly. So, did they provide you with some way to say, "Okay, here's how you're going to work this now"? Do they support that ongoing, or do you have to do that yourself? Or because obviously we are habitual people. We live by habit. Us guys especially, we are on a routine. We're not changing. You mentioned he's German. I'm close to German. My mom was. My dad was in Austria, so that's pretty close to Germany. So we are very stubborn in our ways. We're very fixed in our ways, but we can be moved. And my wife is so good at moving me just a tick at a time, just gradually. And next thing I know, I'm doing something and I really didn't want to do, and I'm doing it happily. Isn't that ironic?
I need to talk to your wife.
So
I think she needs to come on the air because it sounds like she's got some great wisdom.
What did you learn that's going to take what you learned last October or 2 months ago, month and a half ago, and maintain this joy that you found on this weekend? Because if not, you're going to 6 months from now, you're going to be right back to square one. I mean, I'm not a psychologist in any way, but I know life. And believe me, if I don't change my ways and change my habits, I'm right back to where I was 6 months ago, if not sooner. So how do you got your boat floating? Do you remember the movie Multiplicity?
Oh wow, yeah.
The thing I remember the most about that was a funny Michael Keaton, and he got multiplied in like a photocopy or whatever, and they got weirder and weirder as they went along. But the last thing that he said or she said to him, I don't remember who said it, is as long as we're in a boat rowing in the same direction, everything will be just fine. So how would you keep your boat floating and moving in the same direction? Because obviously, if you grab an oar and you grab an oar and you're rowing in opposite directions, what's the boat do?
Spin.
Goes in a circle.
Everyone gets busy and sick, and there's not. Yeah, it's.
So how are you going to keep your boat floating in the right direction?
They brought up several examples of what is something that for each one of the levels that you talked about, the spiritual intimacy, emotional intimacy, teamwork, and companionship, and was what are some activities that you do regularly, like right now, that kind of like help build up these particular levels in your relationship. And is there a deficit? Is that one of the good levels? And then how can you make it better? Once you leave this retreat. And we came up with several different ones. For instance, spiritual intimacy. He referenced a lot of times in the talk that what is the thing that drew you two together to start with? And it was we were both looking for someone to do morning prayer with. And we honestly haven't been doing the liturgy together for quite some time. So we decided that we were going to every morning get up, because in the evenings, oftentimes things come up, school activities, kids, whatever. Yeah, not those kind of activities.
No, I'm talking about school, sports. Yeah. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about school. I mean, you got 9 kids. I mean, how many sports programs and how many musical programs and how many? Anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Too many. Yeah, no, it's fine. But yeah, so things that to be able to establish anything to do regularly with each other in the evenings is nigh impossible. I'm not a morning person, and honestly, I've got to get up and go to work. And usually, I'm like half asleep before I'm an hour into my job. But I committed to getting up. So we will get up in the morning and we will do morning prayer together. It's the first thing. So we've been doing that every single morning for the past 2 months at least, which is good, to try to make sure it's a habit. And it's one of those things that you can't skip, because once you skip it, then it's easy to skip it the next day too. So even while Mary was out on her silent retreat 3 weekends ago, I don't know, some time ago, she would call me in the morning and we would do morning prayer over the phone, and then we followed up with checking up on what are some basically a back and forth of what are ways that I felt that this is hard to give an example of this, like ways that
how have I loved you well today or not loved you well?
Yeah, for the previous day, which honestly is kind of hard to think of in the morning, but best we got. So it's like, oh yeah, when you did this thing for me the other day, or when you came into my office and just talked to me for a little bit while I was at work, or for her, when I had the house clean before she got home from some activity in town or whatever. There's little things, and we basically make sure we articulate them so that way we remember them, that, oh yes, we are actually doing things that to express love and affection for each other. And then we also, then also is like, are there any ways that you felt neglected or unloved? And we go over those as well. And sometimes that brings up conflicts where it's like, okay, is this what you mean when you said this? Then we practice that translation, making sure that what I heard is what you actually meant to say. And then we discuss anything's on there, if there's any reasons that we felt unloved or slighted from the previous day. And then
that pulls up so much. Like, okay, when I started, I'm often surprised at what I read into some situations. Like I was trying on clothes or something, and you like made some comment about what I should wear or not wear. And I was just like, this doesn't matter to you, and you just think that you know better than me, and you don't have time to tell me, and my fashion is wrong, and all this stuff was going in my head, and I hadn't said it all. I was just like, because he was kind of like, oh, fine, no, you need to wear red, no, you need this color. And then he was like, whatever, back to his book. And later I come up to him and I'm just like, that really hurt. And it made me feel like you were trying to tell me that you know more about me than fashion, that I don't dress well, that you don't like me, that blah, blah, all this whole train. And he was like, I wasn't saying any of that. Like I was just giving a comment and I went back to my book. I was reading all of my insecurities into his response, you know, and it was just amazing to see my whole track. And I was like, wow, that's me on him. You know, that's the thing is I've been praying about our marriage and really trying to work and to get it more fruitful and joyful and happy place. It's like, I'm really embarrassed to say how much of it is my fault. Because I'm perfect, right?
None of this is my fault. It's all her.
But I'm going to go back to a funny thing. So with the how have I loved you well, it's kind of a trap because sometimes he'll come up to me and be like, did you do something to love me today that I missed? And I'm like, what have I not done right? But he really is being honest. He's like, because so many of the things I do are kind of mundane. Like I get him coffee in the morning or I make him breakfast or I do these same things every day. And so it's like, well, she does it every day. Like he doesn't even think about it. It's just a long time. It's just, you know, oh, that's just what she does. And he's like, so, but he's really trying to be intentional. So he'll be like, have you done something for me that I missed? And he's being honest, but to hear that, you're like, is that a dig that I need to do more? That's what I hear. But you know.
Yeah, as soon as I mentioned that, I was like, this is not going to be received correctly. We will be having a lot of this translation conversation afterwards. But
you'll learn.
Again, I was wanting to make sure that like is there something that I am missing, you know, because I'm a dude, I'm woefully observant of my surroundings. And if there's something going on, it's like, oh, okay, no, that's great. I will look for that in the future too, and know that hey, this is something you did to show that you love me. So cool. Yeah. Oh, other things we did too. For instance, on the teamwork and companionship part of the pyramid, we tried to make points of. We were trying. This is one that's been harder to keep up with again because it's the middle of the day, so things are a little bit more chaotic at that point. But if we try to do dishes together on Wednesday, and then spend one night each week cooking. But again, one thing we found is that having open-ended or fluid activities scheduled means they oftentimes don't get scheduled. So
yeah, we really need to up a little sometimes to make it a point. But I've started doing like you're saying, I've started picking things that you can't miss. So for example, on Saturday, we're going to go and do a murder mystery at the salt mines.
Oh, cool.
So we paid money for this. We're doing this thing. There is no, I'm going out. You know, it's a consistent thing. So I was excited about that.
Well, one of the things that I'm assuming, because my mind works this way, that our listeners, when you were talking, Gordon, about spending every morning doing the liturgy together, that takes 10 minutes, correct?
Right. Well, it takes him a half hour to wake up.
That's not once he started.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, this Father Curtis talked about it. He spent an entire hour with us today talking about prayer. And he said, people don't understand how important it is to pray 10 minutes every day, privately, with your spouse, and with your children. Well, my first thought is, okay, you know, you're homeschooling. You got a couple kids to get ready to shove out the door and hit the PMP. You're homeschooling. You got a job. How do you find time? How do you make time? What time do you get up in the morning? You know, because you got to get up at like 5 in the morning because by 6 you got kids getting ready. By 7 o'clock they're off to school.
Well, I do get up at 5 in the morning, but that's so I can get my prayer time in the morning. I need more than 10 minutes. I go in there and I'm like, God, love me. I need an hour.
And mine's I generally with the nature of my job, I kind of have a bit of a fluid schedule. So as long as I get there by usually 8:30 or so, it's fine.
And he works from home, so he doesn't have a dress code. He doesn't have a car to warm up. He doesn't have to eat breakfast before he leaves.
Yeah, I'm truly blessed with my job. It's really nice. But I generally speaking set my alarm at 6:30 or 7, and generally speaking about 7 we're usually praying morning prayer. Sometimes a little bit late, but we always if we wake up late or don't get to it, we still make a point of getting it in the morning. So it's like kind of the big priority of the day is to make sure this happens. Everything else can sort of fall in around there. So we said morning prayer at 11 o'clock before, just because
that's what happens.
Things came up, and it's like, all right, well, we are getting this in, and we're getting it in the morning. So
morning prayer.
Yeah, we're lucky. The big kids actually they get themselves up and off to school. We don't really, unless they have a problem, they don't bother us. And then rest of the kids, since we homeschool, we don't have to start early in the morning. So they're
Well,
not
that's true.
usually up until
Well, I
about
guess
8.
you do have,
Yeah.
it's not like the bell's ringing at
No, no, no.
7:45.
No. It's we have a little bit of luxury in that. So, and I definitely lean in. So, and when I pray with them, it's later. We usually lunchtime is our magic prayer time, discussion, religion, because they're occupied with food, so they can listen better.
Gordon, something you mentioned that they talked about at the retreat was, and this is something that my wife and I do a lot of walking together.
Mhm.
My children, I don't know if you knew this, my son is Tucker, his wife Jill, and my daughter Maddie and her son Ryan. They had a CrossFit gym for about, I don't know, almost 10 years, and they made us come. It's like, no, my back hurts, my knees hurt. No, I'm not doing this. And they said, no, you're coming. And so we did. And so after every workout, we would walk for almost 2 miles. And we would just spend that time, just the two of us, we'd walk. And it's kind of like we grew up, you mentioned doing dishes together. I grew up in an era we didn't have dishwasher. And so we did dishes every night, either my brother, my sister, my mom, my dad, someone beside you. Nothing else to do with your hands in soapy water. You visit. You talk about nothing. And as my wife and I would talk, we would talk about whatever's on our mind. But then all of a sudden, you're 2 miles away. You still got to keep talking. It's pretty quiet. And we always said, if someone was struggling in their marriage, I would say, handcuff yourself together and go for a walk. Even it might be very quiet, but what happens is you start talking about the things that made you attracted to each other 20 years ago, 21 and a half, 22 years ago, and that's something that we have to do. We have to renew that passion in our marriage, because if we don't, it's just a flame. If we don't fan it, it becomes an ember. It becomes cold. It dies, and it's something you got to fan, and you got to, and however it works in your family, you got to do that. And that's something that we have done. We just thought it's great because there's nothing else to do but walk and talk.
Yeah, we actually have been walking. We live out in the country, and so walks are very, very nice time that we've been spending together. We have a little spot we go to now. We set the hammock out there. We come sit, and dog annoys us. But that's something else that I was thinking about. I remember a while back came to me was that like you can't hate what you know. So like the more we get to know each other, the more we're able to love each other. So it's like the more you know about someone, the more you can really, because it's easier to love them if you know rather than guess or think you know.
Well, and it's something that marriage is work.
Oh yeah, it's no happily ever after. Like it is making us holy,
and it's amusing. I mean,
painfully holy.
And it's interesting. My wife, her mother and father were married. And unfortunately, she lost her dad. She was 9 years old. Her mom was 48. I think. Never dated another soul. Never even thought about it. She said, "I married the love of my life." That's what my wife grew up in. My mom was married 4 times. My dad was married 3 times.
Oh, wow.
And it's ironic that, and basically, my brothers and my sister and I, we made a decision. We're getting married and we're doing it one time. We saw the other side of it. And ironically, my wife is still married to me, but her 3 siblings are not married any longer. So it's just weird that, they grew up in a very stable farming family. They grew up over 18 miles or 8 miles from town. So, it's not like they were running around and, seeing the neighbors and whatever was going on. They were a family unit, and so it's just intriguing to me, that, our children are watching. They watch what we do and how we do it, and they will pattern their marriages. Your daughters will marry someone, if you love your Gordon, they're going to probably marry someone a lot like Gordon, and our sons are going to marry someone a lot like, and I was very proud that, that my children would marry someone like my wife because she's a saint. It's just wonderful. And it is ironic that my son-in-law is we have a lot of things in common, and we didn't grow up anywhere near each other. He's a long ways away. So it's something, marriage is work, and it's something you have to work on, and communication is so important. So hands off, hats off to you guys that you took the time to go on this retreat. I mean, it's just something that very few people would even, it's just like, yeah, whatever. I mean, like you said, most of us, first I was like, no, we ain't spending that kind of money, and are you kidding me? All the way to Denver? Get out of here. Victoria was enough for me. I could do the 10 miles. We're not doing we're not doing the 300-mile thing. So.
But it was good to be like pulled away, not necessarily to the desert this time. Like that's the image I had for my silent retreat, but just pulled out of your norm, so it's a different place.
Comfort zone. And that's what my wife is so good with me about it. She eases me out of my comfort zone, and I've never regretted it. I mean, I'll fight and kick and scream and bitch and go all the way, but when it's all said and done, I'm always saying thanks, honey, that we did this. Time together with your spouse is precious.
Yeah.
Yes, I don't know. I mean, probably a lot of any of the guys out there who are listening or whatever, the kind that wouldn't mind going to, a retreat or something, find it interesting. But if anybody out there is, I don't like things like I don't like retreats. I don't like speakers, even for topics like cars or technology that I'm involved in or whatever. I don't like going and listening to some speaker. I don't listen to podcasts. I very rarely watch YouTube videos on how to do something when I got to figure something out. And it was very intuitive, and it was very opening and logical and methodical. So it was really good. I have nothing but good things to say about the retreat.
Made sense.
Yeah, it worked for me. So
cool. Any last words, Mary?
So
we'll give her the last word.
My last thought would be don't be afraid to pray to the Holy Spirit. Like, I really feel like this was very much a nudge, and like he lined everything up. And it's funny because I went to a charismatic college, right? Francis University of Steubenville, and they're very, very excited about the Holy Spirit. When I came back here, it's kind of like, we're German, we don't do that, But I really feel like I found that.
All right. Again, you're listening to Divine Mercy Radio, and we are in our fall Care-a-Thon. Our theme is His Mercy Endures Forever. And Lester and Donetta are going to come in here in a minute. We're going to do some house cleaning and draw some names from our trivia. By the way, our trivia winners for the last hour or so. The last one from our 4 o'clock hour was Marcus Johnson from Colby. And then we had our 2 winners from our 5 o'clock hour, Hannah Plank from Wichita, and Grant Weber was our trivia winner on the what we took from what God took from Adam to create Eve. So again, thank you so much to Gordon and Mary Schroeder. A wonderful talk from them concerning marriage and the trip they took to go to their retreat on marriage to strengthen their marriage. So Donetta is with us right now, and I see Lester's coming. So I'm turning the mic over and saying good day to all of you. Those mics are on.
Okay, I will give us a total of where we stand. Right now, our total for the week is 52,435. So we're a third of the way, over a third. In matching funds, we got that under 10,000. Now we're at 9,939. So hopefully tomorrow we can use all that up.
So close your eyes and tell me.
I'll do it.
My drum roll. Yes. See who our lucky winner is.
You can announce it. You got the mic.
Nicole Wool.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Nicole.
So, and she received a $50 gift card from the messenger.
Exactly.
So she can obviously go to the messenger and do some shopping, or she can also do it online.
Okay.
Nicole, I'm not sure. Just said she, Nathan punched her in about 2:37, so she won the second question during our 3 o'clock hour.
You do have a phone number?
Okay.
They'll be
Well, we
contacted.
want to thank everybody for participating today, for help us keep the lights on. And we had a little bit of technical difficulty. We had our engineer come in, and I think we got those bugs worked out, because tomorrow we're going to have a couple of call-in guests, so hopefully we won't run into that same problem. If you want to, I'll let you read off who our guests will be tomorrow and what time they're on.
At 7 a.m., you'll be visiting with Bill Mayer. His topic is You Are What You Eat. At 8 a.m., Tony Gable comes in. I don't know what Tony is going to be visiting about, so
He hasn't told me yet.
it's going to be a mystery. So it should be good. By the way, your host tomorrow morning, you'll be back with Cody Morenzer. At 9 o'clock, he'll interview Father Gail Hammerschmidt. Father Gail is in Manhattan. His topic is endurance that His mercy needs. And at 10 a.m., Father Brian Lager will be here. The conflict in Israel. I don't know if that'll be remote, or is he coming in?
He's coming in.
Good. You'll enjoy Father Brian. And then we'll take a break there from 11 to noon. And I'll be back at 12 o'clock with Father Richard Dace. He's going to talk about the Grunt Padre, the story of Father Capodanno. Hope I'm saying that right. If not, Father Rich will correct me tomorrow. At 1 o'clock, we have students from TMP that attended the NCYC trip. That was last month, I think. Is that right? We went to that.
Just recently here.
The National Catholic Youth Conference. And then at 2 o'clock, we have Joanne Seaman. She is the new director and renovation of the Mother Cabrini Shrine. And at 3 o'clock, we'll have the Chaplet of Divine Mercy. At 4 o'clock, we'll interview Sisters John Marie and Sister Mary Agnes. They'll be speaking with us on the 7 Sorrows of Mary. And we'll wrap the day up at 5 o'clock with Carolyn Meyer, Donna Swagger, and Tina Schrick on pregnancy resources in Western Kansas. So tune in tomorrow, Divine Mercy Radio, at the many different options you have. 101.7 KJDM in Lindsborg, Salina, 105.7 KMDG in Hayes, 88.1 KRTT in Great Bend, 88.1 KBD in Hayes.
KBDM, they're